So I want to pose a question to you all. When I say the phrase children on the internet, what comes to mind? So think about your son, your daughter, your next door neighbor, maybe your grandchild. Think of what comes to mind. So often we think about the risks and the dangers of our kids being online. So we think about cyberbullying, people saying nasty things to one another. We think about this addiction, so like spending all day, every day on your laptop, on your tablet, on your iPhone, on your laptop. And think about the dangers. There's so many dangers out there. Who are you talking to? Who are you really connecting to? It's the internet. Who knows? And these are very real dangers. And wow, the mood got brought down a lot in here. Sorry. So the talk isn't over. The talk isn't over. But these are very legitimate concerns. And today, together, I want us to step back for a second and think about not just the perils, but also the promises of our youth on the internet. And so for the past 3 years, I've been the director of a massive online community where kids are creating their own stories, games, and animations. So I've seen firsthand the dangers, but also the promises. And so when I think of online communities, I think of communities of inclusion, where everyone is welcome, regardless of your age, your race, your religion, your gender identity, sexual orientation. You are welcome. And I think the game that was created by a young person, she made all of those graphics, she coded it herself. And it's kind of like Mario, but you collect pride flags instead of mushrooms. So you learn more about gender flags. And she's sharing that with this massive community of young people. I think about expression. So often what we do is we buy the video game, right? We buy the video game or we watch the DVD. But what happens when young people are the creators of that content? They're making things that are meaningful to them. And I think of this project about one person sharing their story of living with synesthesia and sharing that to raise awareness. And I think about collaboration. So when you talk with someone on the internet, what if that's someone across the country, across the world, and you're working together on a project that's bigger than yourself? And I think to this project that was created by a group of young people from around the world called Color Divide, which is a role-playing game. So people are developing the artwork, they're sharing the voiceovers, then they're putting these things together and sharing them in this beautiful project that we're looking at right now. And so these are a few things that I think about when I think about kids online. And what we saw there is those were projects created in Scratch. So Scratch is a project out of the MIT Media Lab and the Lifelong Kindergarten Group at MIT. And what you do is you can create your own stories and games and animations, and instead of typing out the code in lines of text, you're using colorful blocks. And so as you can see here, we'll just snap together a program and we'll make the cat move. And then when you click the green flag, the cat will move 10 steps and say hello. And so all those projects yeah, it's pretty cute. It's pretty awesome. So all the projects that we just saw were created in Scratch using these blocks. And kids are creating their own characters and coding their own and developing their own code. And even cooler, we have this online community. This is a community that's translated in over 50 languages. There's now over 18 million projects that have been shared by 14 million people from around the world. And it's free, and it's empowering young people to be creative. And so how can you possibly create a safe space that welcomes expression of young people on topics that are important to them? And you know what? It comes down to something pretty simple. We have community guidelines. These aren't like the rules that you'd see on like a swimming pool, like don't run, no horseplay. These are kind of like, what kind of community do we really want? And these mirror so much of the communities that you might want to build online and offline. So you can see we have be respectful. So when sharing a project, leave a comment that is respectful. And understand that people are coming from different backgrounds. Someone might be new to creating, a new artist or something like that, so keep that in mind. Someone might have a different life experience than you, so sort of be respectful. Be constructive, give constructive feedback. Share, so everything that's shared on Scratch, you can peek inside the project and you can remix it yourself. So you can build on other people's idea. 1 in 5 projects actually on our website is a remix. And then we have the safety bit. Make sure to keep your personal information private. Be honest, and keep the site friendly. And so we share these community guidelines with every new user that comes on the site. And we have seen so many positive, wonderful comments that happen on the Scratch website. But what happens when someone might leave a comment like this? Say you just shared your project. You're totally new to computer programming, you made an account, and this comment gets left on your project. What do you do? Let's think. Does it feel like it fits the community guidelines? It doesn't feel respectful, right? It doesn't feel constructive. Keeping in mind that we have 100,000 comments per day and 20,000 projects per day, new projects. What we'll do is we'll take down that comment, and we'll send a notification to the person who left that comment, and we'll say, please be constructive next time you comment. And this is the work of 12 incredible folks. Is that 12? That's 12. 12 incredible people. We keep growing. 12 incredible people who are fielding reports every day and sharing these community guidelines with the broader community. And we are at scale, and so it is a lot of work, but it's really important. And I think the secret, too, is that these are real people. These are folks that enjoy working with kids, that want to see kids express themselves and be creative. And there's something magical that happens when you take the effort to try to build these communities. What happens is the young people, or the people in the community, will try to uphold those guidelines. And so you see this in a project like this, which is a Scratch project where you play it and you learn more about Scratch etiquette. Or what the young people have created, which is called the ScratchWelcoming Committee, which is a studio space. So you can see this is a studio. It's sort of like a playlist where you can share projects that welcome people to the website. So all of those 100+ projects are just advice on getting started to create games. And then you can leave comments as well, and someone will welcome you in. And again, these are just young people around the world trying to make people feel welcome into our community. And when this happens, and you create a space where people feel comfortable to share things that are important to them. We see games about tacos, taco animations, cat animations, you name it. But we also see people sharing parts of their lives that make them feel very, very vulnerable. And I think back to when I was the average age of a Scratcher, so between 8 and 11. And the community that, I wish I had this kind of community, both online and offline. And I think to this piece of writing that I wrote in 3rd grade. I was 8 years old at the time. And it was a piece of writing about something that was very important to me at that time when I was 8. And that was, I said this, if I was a little fatter, my life would probably be a little less stressful. Yeah. That's because every day someone has to comment on my height and my weight. And that's been the case pretty much my whole life. I've been bullied. People grab my wrist or say, did you eat? And yes, this is the last thing. Everyone is making fun of me. And so vividly, I remember my elementary school experience being this. And I think to the Scratch community and what these young people are doing, and I think to this project, which was shared by SmileyFace72, that if you play it through, she talks about what it's like to deal with stress in middle school, and she says to stay positive, and I so wish I had a peer like that. And then I think to these dress-up games that feature people with real bodies, and we celebrate the differences that we have. And it's so wonderful that kids are just doing this, because this is the world that they see and the world they want to build, and to make other people feel welcome. And I so wish I had that. And I also think now, I'm 27, and I find so much inspiration in what these young kids are doing and sharing, and the courageous expression of what they're sharing on the Scratch website. So this is another studio that we're going to talk about. And when I was about 19 years old, I developed this sort of an anxiety disorder. It was like generalized anxiety disorder, so I'd have panic attacks, and I would begin to sweat, and I'd feel like I was losing control of my thoughts. And I was so embarrassed to tell anyone that it was a secret that I lived with for years. And it really, really affected me, and I felt so ashamed. I had no idea how to tell my parents or my friends that I was going through this. And this is the case for so many people that live with a mental illness. And so I was browsing the website one day, and I found a studio that was called For Those with Anxiety. And this was a studio made by a young person, and she said, I made this studio because I have anxiety, and I know other people do as well. And I want this to be a place where people can talk about their anxiety. And the way in which she was so courageous to remind me that I am not broken and that I am not alone, and to take this leap, not only to share her story, but also later on she says, remember, this is a place where you'll be built up and not torn down. So keep that in mind. If you haven't talked with an adult about this, I'm personally asking, even if you think it's embarrassing, it'll help you a lot. So I care for you and you should get hugs. Yeah, it's so wonderful that young people are taking this platform that we've opened up to them to be creators, to share things that make them feel so vulnerable, and to remind myself that someone half my age, halfway around the world, can remind me that I have worth and I have nothing to be ashamed of. And if you can't relate to that, maybe we can all relate to the time after, the morning after the shooting in Orlando at the Pulse nightclub, and how confused we all felt and searching for answers. And what was happening on the website was the same kind of thinking: what do we do next? And the young people came together without our help, and they created this project. It's called an MAP. It's a multi-animator project. So this is where different people will contribute certain parts, like maybe 5 seconds of an animation, then they stitch it together. The young people came together and said, we need to make something to remember the victims. And so they came together, and over 40 people from around the country, around the world, shared different parts to this song, Hands. And it's to pay a tribute to those that we lost that night. And this, for me, exemplifies what is possible when we allow young people to express themselves. And lest this come across as us bragging about Scratch, because this is really difficult work. There's no rule book on how it is you would try to build a community like this. And we constantly are iterating, and we do make mistakes. But I think that we've found the happy medium of expression and moderation. And I want to quickly share what I've seen elsewhere on the internet. And that is, we have websites for youth that are so constrained. So instead of typing sort of whatever word you want, or drawing your own image, or sharing a photograph that you took, we give them a canned list of words that you choose from, or images. And we say that's safer. But you have to ask yourself, can any of those projects that we just saw, could they have been created in here? Could we build this community that is inclusive? On the other end of the spectrum, you have something that's a bit more unmoderated. And you say, well, you can type whatever you want. But think about that comment, this was boring. That comment would probably still stay there. And what kind of community does that build? And so it could be potentially toxic. So I would say that the future of the internet for our children, and maybe for all of us, is in the middle. Open communities where we allow people to express ideas that are important to themselves. Communities that are built on community guidelines. And yes, communities that are moderated. And so parents, teachers, caregivers, I hope you think about this when you're thinking about your young people online. And young people, I'm so inspired by your courage and the way you express yourself. And I hope that we build more of these communities. I hope you demand them. And most importantly, I hope you build them. Thank you.